So I've been training for a marathon for 100 days, which feels pretty mental in itself to say. But one thing I thought I'd do is kind of look back on these 100 days, how it's been, what I've learned, and really just how far I've come. I'm an extremely beginner runner, really, in the large sense of things. I only started this about a year and a half ago. I'm very new to marathon training. It's my first ever marathon. It's a big one at that, but it's all very new and I'm learning every step of the way and I'm trying my best to enjoy it. So I thought a great thing to do would be to put a few little learning things into a video, 5 to be precise. So yeah, hopefully I can share this with someone who's in the same position, or even for myself to be able to look back on in a few years' time and maybe laugh at some things that I should have learned earlier or things that became a mainstay, hopefully. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Lesson number one is that habits need to change. For some people, you might already have like a really healthy lifestyle or things that are really suited to running, suited to training, or just a general way of life that works. Me personally, I didn't at all, really. I'm quite a social person. I enjoy going out. I work in the drinks industry, so I am exposed to alcohol and alcohol parallel events quite often. So that's something I kind of had to switch in the training to this. I'm not saying you have to go sober to train for a marathon, but one thing that I definitely had to make a conscious choice of is like, yeah, look, you've got to start limiting the amount of drinks you're having just because it kind of messes you up. It doesn't help recovery, doesn't help training, doesn't help performance. It just doesn't align with the goal of trying to prepare for a marathon, trying to achieve something. It's a hard lesson I kind of learned early on. I kicked off this training block in December. Not everyone has to do a 20-week training block for a marathon. Most people won't. It's just because I had so much time and it was my first one. I thought, why not build a good base and kind of get stuck into it? But that being said, that meant I had to start before Christmas and over that kind of New Year's period. I didn't really hold back, as no one does at that period, on the food, the drink, etc. But what really hit me was when I was pretty much like 4 or 5 weeks in, had a big long run and went straight into like a big boys' weekend. I talked about this a bit in like a previous video. Got absolutely smashed. Came back thinking I was just going to get back into a week of training, and I was shattered. I thought I was ill, injured, the lot, the anxiety, and that was kind of a turning point. From there on, I thought, you know what, let's switch this up and kind of just make sure that I take care of myself a bit more. So yeah, less drinking, less going out, but it just meant that everything else kind of got a bit better. The other things in terms of habits that I kind of had to change was sleep, prioritizing sleep, making sure I can recover better. I was generally someone who went to bed around midnight to 1 o'clock ish. Probably got like 6, 7 hours of sleep, which is already pretty decent. But I've just found that going to bed a bit earlier just means that I can get up at those earlier times, get the training done without that excess fatigue. So that's been a great game changer. Nutrition has been a massive one. I think I like my food. I like to eat, that's for sure. Never really been one to count calories or protein or carb intake or anything like that. And of course, with running, that type of thing does become kind of important. Less so on the counting side of things, but more like carb, protein, just to fit that around training and help you recover. And I was definitely not eating enough. Around that same time when I had that kind of massive bender, came back 1 week hangover thing, did a bit of research, found that I was eating like 1,000 less calories than I was supposed to per day. But since then, I've integrated that into my like weekly planning and the weekly meals, and I have felt so much better. There truly is a massive difference between running underfueled and running fueled. The more I've worked on it and kind of built in like these type of nutrition plans around my training and around, for example, getting used to carb loading before a long run, I hope, I haven't run the marathon yet, I just hope it's going to pay off in the long run. But yeah, it's definitely made me feel better on all those hard sessions. So yeah, it's a really big lesson, and I'm so happy to have learned it quite early on and to have had the time to kind of implement it as we go on. And yeah, the last kind of habit is just shifting priorities, understanding that this big thing in your life, which is marathon training, is going to take up a load of time. So just to be ready to shift some habits that maybe take up time, not for the right reasons. Not that you have to cut out everything, and that's definitely not something I'd recommend. But just make sure, yeah, that in your daily calendar, there is a big chunk of time that's done for this, whether that's training, whether it's stretching, recovering, eating, etc. it does take over your life a bit. So I'm loving it. I'm loving the habit change and how it's changed my structure, but I'm sure it's not for everyone. The second bit of learning that I want to talk about is trusting the training plan. Once again, this is coming from a position of someone who is pretty amateur and pretty beginner in this space. But that's why I think this lesson is even more important. Knowing what you're going to do every day, what the week looks like, how you're going to do it, how you're going to fit your training, how many hard sessions, how many easy runs. Are you doing strength work? Are you stretching, doing yoga, Pilates, etc.? It can all be like really overwhelming. And especially if we're looking at stuff on YouTube and we watch, I know I personally watch a lot of professional, really skilled runners. They talk about all these terms and they show all these things, but sometimes it can all feel a bit much. So personally, I've been using Runner, which I'm sure loads of people do. I've loved it so far. It's allowed me to try loads of new things. I've definitely seen results. And it's also just helped me put the ego to one side when it comes to running. I know a lot of people do struggle with this, and I definitely used to struggle with it. Of like every run, you kind of challenge yourself, you try and be a hero. But at the end of the day, if the training plan says you better be running easy today, then I don't know. It just kind of helps me mentally decide on, yeah, well, who am I to say any different? It also helps with understanding everything, having an app or a database where you can ask questions and how you can learn about all these different techniques and terms and pacing and things like that. Just stick to it. Stick to it. I've listened to mine like a Bible. Yeah, I've missed the odd session when I've had to reorganize, but it's always calibrated and allowed me to do that. I even had to take a break when I was having some pain, which we'll touch on later. And it did it. It has like an integrated vacation feature and it shuffled my plan around. So it's been great. Number 3, and I did foreshadow this a bit in the last bit, is that you're probably going to get hurt. I don't wish it upon anyone, and I'm sure loads of people can avoid it, but it does seem to be pretty common that in these like marathon training blocks, especially if, like me, it's your first time, you end up getting hurt somewhere. Hopefully it's not major injury, which I was lucky enough for it to be not in my case. Overstrained myself. Just off the back of one of my practice races, I dived straight back into training, and yeah, everything started to hurt. I started having some major pain around my ankle and shins on my right leg, so I decided to take 4 or 5 days off, which in itself is a hard thing to do, but I definitely recommend. Just if it hurts, sometimes that recovery and just time off running is what's going to help. Me, it got to a point where it wasn't getting better, so I looked for professional help, which I think is definitely the best thing to do in this lesson. And one of the things I've learned is that I'm definitely not going to hesitate again to ask someone who knows what they're talking about, what's wrong with me and can we sort it out? Is it going to be major? Is it small? So I went to see a physio. Luckily, a guy I know is a physio. Went to see him, checked me up. Turns out I have one leg that's longer than the other. The source of my issue. Also running on country roads a lot. The in-curve of the road was hurting my legs. He sorted me out and I've been back stronger ever since. And he's giving me a few tips like on terms of like warming up, stretching, that type of thing. So you will get hurt, but don't worry about it. Just make sure you take care of it. It's really tempting to run through it, and I think a lot of people can. But just in my own experience, getting that help in early on just kind of made all the difference, really. The next lesson is find people to run with. This kind of sounds pretty straightforward. But for me, I live in a part of the world where there isn't like a thriving running community, well, not at least not in my social circles. There isn't really like big run clubs near me. There isn't like a park run, anything like that. And my mates are only just getting into running. But having a friend or two to go on these runs with, especially the longer ones or the hard long runs, that type of thing, where you have like a warm-up section or the whole run if it's possible, but just having someone to talk to and share the experience with has definitely made it so much easier. And I think it's also going to make the experience way more enjoyable and even better to look back on. You kind of build, if you're not really a sporty person originally like me, like I did have small instances of teamwork and stuff in the past, but it does feel like you're part of something bigger. It makes it all a bit less individualistic. And I do really think that when I get to those hard moments in a race, having those moments to think back on, to think, oh, these guys have helped me work, and I think about them, that will help me through. It's just a great feeling, really. And to have people that are kind of working towards the same goals is Yeah, that's a really great thing. So if you can find that, and yeah, and try and rally up a mate or two to go on every long run with you. My final one is that milestones are going to help you build confidence. So what do I mean by this? This can kind of just come with the training plan, or you can kind of actively seek to do it. Having moments throughout that block that will show you that you're making progress, because the chances are, if you're beginner or amateur, kind of like me, you're going to be getting those like newbie gains. You're going to be making progress. So you also want to show it. Like, well, in my case, 20 weeks, if you're doing 16 weeks, 12 weeks, etc. Times in that period where you can hit a PB on, like, if it's the 5K, the 10K, your half marathon, maybe something like that. It's just a great thing. As part of this training block, I had like a 5K time trial, which allowed me to hit a 5K PB. I had a half marathon practice race, which did lead to me kind of getting injured, but I hit a big half marathon PB, and those things just help you build confidence. I know that it makes me feel so much stronger, so much more excited going into training the week after, and just working towards this big overarching goal, which is the marathon. But having these little hits of wins, banking them in, and just getting that winning feeling, I feel is so important. And it's definitely something I'll try and integrate into every training plan, really, even though I'm fully aware that the more you improve, the harder it is to hit those like frequent wins. So yeah, that's it for my 5 tips. If you have watched this, thank you very much. The marathon's not far away. I'm currently on day 108 of 140. So yeah, almost a month out. I'm actually a couple of days before my biggest workout ever in this block, which is a 35K race practice long run. That's the big one. This is pretty much peak week, really. Just trying to see how far I've come. But I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to the race. And I do intend to enjoy it as much as possible. I'm not sure if I'll be making another video before, but if we don't, I'll see you after the marathon. Thanks again.